Welcome on into the channel again, everyone. Today we're going to be going over Ashes of Creation again, but we're going to be going over what we're anticipating as a community Alpha 2 is going to be like, and some highlights along the way. I wanted to make this video just to go over a few key highlights of what we, the community, have been thinking is going to be in Ashes Alpha 2, or whether or not, some of the things around the community are going to be true as far as Ashes, what everybody thinks about the delay to October, which is Q4, which is a missed deadline for Intrepid. We still have no information as of the recording of this video on why the delay happened. I'm hoping the AMA here in about 10 days time is going to tell us some significant information. But where do you guys find yourself? Are you guys coped out copium addicts? Or are you guys doomium apocalypse prophecies, right? But let's get right into the video. So, we're talking about Ashes of Creation, the highly anticipated MMO that's coming out by Intrepid Studios. It's been in development for, a little while now. It's gone through some different iterations early on with Alpha 0, Alpha 1, APOC. If you've been following the project for a long time, you know the game where it started is not where we are today. If you've kind of jumped in and out in the last 4 years, I still would say that the game you saw starting 4 years ago is a little bit different than what you see today. But unfortunately, I think what has plagued Intrepid and the studio and the game in its development, the same issues are plaguing it still today. I think what we see are missed deadlines, over-promising, under-delivering, and again, we as the community, I think, could swallow that or understand that better, coming from the perspective of a small indie studio. But unfortunately, I don't think Intrepid can stand on that anymore. They're not a small studio anymore. They're, massive in scale as far as popularity, as reach, and over the years, they really have developed into a well-rounded, I think, game studio, but we're still plagued with the same things of over-promising and under-delivering. Now you're asking, why are we talking about this, or what do you mean, right? So I guess the one clear gleaming example of that that's most fresh in everybody's mind that's following the project is the Alpha 2 date and its delay. And the circulating circumstances around why it took a back burner to this last month's live stream of the Bard. We kind of, Intrepid and Steven in the live stream kind of glanced over the October time frame for Alpha 2 and didn't really talk about it at all. And when I made my last video, I hadn't fully watched a full live stream yet. So I didn't know that Steven himself had brought up October as a date within the live stream. So watching the live stream and having him go quickly over that and just kind of back burner it was cause for concern for me. But obviously we've seen, in the community, both I think in the forums, on the Discord, on the videos, other content creators, anyone who's covering Ashes, there's a lot of concern, and this topic is really heated right now. And I think it's at 3 stages of where people are. You're either not bothered by this at all, you're completely utterly bothered by this, or you're on the fence. And one thing I try and do in my videos is remain neutral and see it from, all sides of the spectrum as I can. I try and keep my opinion for the most part out of it. I'll give you guys my opinion on things, but I try and remain neutral in the videos just in general, so that if Intrepid does for some reason stumble upon this small tiny channel and they see some of these videos, they can get a neutral perspective of just a general overview of its community. Now, obviously, the next question is, where do I stand on this topic, right? And for me, honestly, I'm a bit confused on this topic. One part of me is, hoping for the best and is still very hopeful, because I do appreciate this project. I like this project. I've been following it since late 21, so not as much time invested as some folks. But, it's the first game that I've actually followed from early development. I normally don't, right? This game, the potential, the creativity, the design, the vision of this game really has attracted me. So the positive part of me is still very optimistic and positive. However, I can't not see the writing on the wall, or be oblivious to what is going on, right? We're clearly missing a huge date for Intrepid. Alpha 2 is arguably probably the biggest thing next to launch, right? Launch is going to be the biggest thing for this game, but Alpha 2 is absolutely huge for how this game is going to be perceived and how this studio is going to be perceived moving forward and at launch, right? It's either going to be that, it's a flat failure, or, seen as a failure throughout the community, throughout, the internet, what have you, or it's going to be a rousing success. And, leading up to launch, Intrepid just going to springboard off of that, right? The problem is the miss of the Q3 deadline without any information is huge to me. And again, the critic in me is saying that this is due to additional Alpha 2 key sales. There's been no talk about that ever since they brought that up in a live stream prior. There's been nothing provided for, how this is going to work, how it's going to cost, how people can, buy into the Alpha 2. Nothing has been provided, and nothing since has been talked about this, and I think that's a big driving factor for this delay. I have no inside information. I hope it's not the case, because for me, that's going to be very off-putting if that was the reason for the delay. Now, okay, we got all the bad out of the way. What are we looking forward to, and what do we expect in Alpha 2, right? A lot of people think we're going to get maybe 1 or 2 biomes, a couple of the races, maybe not all of the races. And we have to go back and see what was promised, or what was said to be in Alpha 2 from Intrepid themselves, right? So we have to go and grab the wiki. So, first and foremost, what is Alpha 2 going to be? And that's the first thing you get here when you search the wiki. But Ashes of Creation's core game systems are expected to be in place at the start of Alpha 2. By the end of Alpha 2, the game is expected to be feature complete, but not content complete until launch, which I think is a good thing to do. I want to have some of the content and stuff to not be known to everyone, as Alpha 2 will last until the launch of the game and will run in parallel with Beta 1 and Beta 2. So there's going to be a lot of people in here testing. There's going to be a lot of people in here, and a lot of that information might carry over into the launch of the game. So I'm hoping Intrepid does keep a lot of information away from the player base. Me personally, I took part in Beta 1 and Beta 2 in New World, and by the time New World launched, I just felt like I was doing a rinse and repeat already, and I was just level 1. There was no compelling new gameplay, new game, story arcs, nothing like that. So I really hope that Ashes learns from that mistake and really keep a lot of the content away from the player base. Alpha 2 is intended to be a true functional representation of all the core systems and features, and that was a direct quote from Steven. We're expected to have seasons, climates, events, story arcs, quests, points of interest. The zones are expected to be around 60 to 70% complete before they are ready for Alpha 2. The devs will publish a list of starting biomes closer to the start of Alpha 2. So, again, we're given information that close to the start of Alpha 2, we're going to get a list of biomes. Today is August 6th. If we are shooting for an October date, we're pretty close to Alpha 2 launch, and we haven't seen any kind of information coming about biomes. The starting biomes will be announced when they are confident which ones will be ready environmentally and asset-wise. When we are ready to share this info, we will. And that again is a direct quote from Steven. The eastern continent of the map, so the right side of the map, may not be included until later in Alpha 2. I hope that is the case, and I hope it is super, super late in Alpha 2. I would love for that eastern continent to kind of be unknown to a vast majority of players. So I hope that eastern side is very, very limited access. The character creator, we know that's coming. We still have not heard anything about that, which is sad again. Character progression up to level 30 is what we can assume is going to be still accurate for Alpha 2. We're going to get the Bard, Cleric, Fighter, Mage, Ranger, and Tank archetypes. So no Rogue and no Summoner at the launch. They are intended, though, to be in Alpha 2 at some point in Alpha 2. Toolnar, Family Summon, Religions, Mounts, Mount Skins. Mount Skins will not be available till after the start of Alpha 2. And I think, everything that I said before, the Toolnar, Family Summon, Religions, Mounts, that might not be till later. Combat is, in a pretty solid state, I think. Weapon types that will be present at the beginning of Alpha 2 are one-handed maces, swords, wands, spellbooks, longbows, shortbows, two-handed spears, and dual-wielded daggers. We haven't seen any dual-wield daggers recently since the first fighter showcase, so hopefully those are still there. Sieges, Guild Wars, Node Wars, PvP sessions will likely be added in an Alpha 2 update. Nodes, academic nodes are likely the only node type that will be fully implemented at the beginning of Alpha 2. So, all my node freaks, we're only going to get one node type. We likely will be testing and reflecting different culture aspects of the node type through commissions that are available through the different narrative types that are available. That will be military, divine, economic, but when it comes to the government systems, that will be scientific to start. And again, that's a quote from Steven, so we know that the government systems are going to be scientific to start, which is fine. That's fine. I would rather have the military, divine, and economic stuff later on. So I think scientific is where you can vote for the mayor, so that's pretty cool. Node progression to city, which is stage 5, and potentially metropolis, which is stage 6. That would be kind of cool to see, but again, I'm hoping that that type of testing is limited to maybe Phoenix Initiative and Alpha 1 holders and, Alpha 2 top time spent in Alpha 2, people testing that late in Alpha 2 and not just a vast majority of people. I think that would be cool to leave out and have people, again, experience that for the first time in game. Naval content will be introduced in a Alpha 2 update, which is cool. Naval warfare, the 3 ship classes. Ships will have functioning cannons, but the ship UI may not be complete. So all you pirates out there, you should be getting your ship classes the 3 different types of ships with working cannons. You can go out there and be pirates, but some of that stuff might be a work in progress. Artisan classes, we should be getting that. Artisan gear, auction houses, crates to transport, storage, caravans. Voiceover IP will be introduced in Alpha 2, guild management tools. So in conclusion, there's going to be a lot of stuff in Alpha 2 on top of all the testing. So I think, what do I expect Alpha 2 to be like? I expect the first few weeks, maybe months of Alpha 2 to be extremely buggy. And that's not a diss or, any type of negative on Intrepid and the state of Alpha 2. It's Alpha 2, right? It's meant to be a testing ground, and things are meant to go wrong. If we get into Alpha 2 and things are perfect, then that is not an Alpha 2. That is a, Beta 1, Beta 2, or game ready to launch. So I expect things to be bumpy at first, and as patches and updates roll out, things will get smoother and smoother. I hope that we, the testers, get a very specific timeline to test things, right? Like, all players test node war sieges for the next 2 days, right? Or something along those lines. And then I do hope that we as the player base get to go out there and test random things, or just kind of explore. And, some people like to, do exploits and test out exploits, report those exploits back, so that way they're not a common theme or a common bug that occurs come launch. And some people just like, testing the systems, right? Artisan systems, trying to break them, crafting things, character creator testing, all of that stuff, right? So I hope that we do get a very specific subject to test every now and then, which I think we will. And then I think having some free roam time in between that. Don't forget too, the servers are probably going to be down for maintenance quite often, and things like that as patches roll out and updates and new things are added. So I'm excited, guys. I really am. Again, I try and stay neutral, so you do get a positive perspective and a negative constructive criticism perspective from me. Personally, again, I am more leaning now towards a scared, concerned consumer rather than an optimistic and full-on, copium addict here following the project. There is a lot of concern for me personally over, just communication and things in the last few months, few live streams that are causing me to, pull back, kind of bring down my expectations. But again, we're trudging forward in this process. Everybody's on the roller coaster. We're here for the ride. We're loving it. As always, guys, you know what to do. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Comment what you guys are excited for, what you're not excited for. What are things you hope to see in Alpha 2? What are things that you don't want to see at all, right? What is content that you don't want to see in Alpha or any of the betas and you want to experience for the first time in the live game, right? What do you want to do? Give your feedback to Intrepid. Don't be, afraid to give feedback. There is a stigma that, negative feedback is not received well by, the community or the team at Intrepid. But I think the point of that is, as long as your feedback is based in fact and not overly critical, then and I don't mean overly critical like you're not calling out BS when it's BS. Call out the BS when it's BS, but don't be a jerk about it, right? Don't go over the top and, call them idiots or, they're the dumbest people on the planet because they did this mistake or this is in there, blah, 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 right? Give your feedback in a positive way, whether it's positive feedback or constructive criticism. I really hope that Intrepid is taking account of all the feedback and not just part of the very vocal minority or very vocal, majority on some topics, right? Take in all of the feedback. But this has been a long one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.